Hey everybody, welcome back to the sewing machine. Ready to sew block, I'm going to have to cheat and look, block 7. Block 7 is exactly like block 8 and is exactly like block 9, only they're different sizes. So that's going to be something new that we've not done before, made the same block in different sizes. So that's going to be exciting, but it's not anything that you haven't done before. So it's kind of the same old, but you know what the Boy Scouts say? The more you repeat, the more you'll remember. And so I think maybe the Girl Scouts say that too. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, let's come around here, Peter, and let's look at last week's block. Actually, last week's block is made up of 16 small blocks. Now, I called this the bear paw block because it's put together like the bear paw block, but I think it is called something else when the stripes go this way, because the bear paws, these would have been turned around. But they're the same block. I mean, they're made the same way. We'll be making some authentic bear paw blocks later on. But anyway, someone asked, what happens if you squared these blocks the wrong size, the finished size instead of the unfinished size? Because the book gives you the finished size, right? And what do you have to do? You have to add a half an inch. See, even Peter knows that. So, if you did it to these and to these before you sewed all this together, you'll be fine. But if you sewed all this together and then did this individual block, you have now cut off all your points and they're gone. So your choices are make it over or forget about the points and put a sashing around each one to make this block the size it's supposed to be, because it doesn't really matter what size these little ones are. It matters what size this is, because this is the block that's going to go into the quilt. Okay, so you've got decisions to make. Either make the blocks over and square them up with the half an inch added to the finished size, or sew them together, all together, and then add however much more you need out here as a kind of a border of one of the colors. It doesn't matter. You could even use 4 different colors. You know, just whatever you have left in your scraps. It shouldn't be too much. I would have to figure it out to figure out how much it would have to be. But, I mean, you can figure it out. You just sew these all together, measure it, then measure how big the block is supposed to be, and add that sashing to it, okay? All right, so that's that. Now for this week's block, come over here, Peter, to the cutting board. Here are the 3 sizes. This is the baby, and we're going to make 3 of those, okay? Now this sounds like a lot because we're making block 7, 8, and 9, and we're making 3 of these. So we're actually making 5 blocks. But if you consider you made 16 blocks last week, you're sailing. You're doing great. So don't be worried that this is going to be too much. It's not. And these blocks go together really fast. So this is block 9. The little one's block 9. The middle one is block 8. And the big daddy is block 7. And that's the one I'm going to make today. And it's going to be the same no matter. So we're going to start out by making these half square triangles that are here in the corner. And I'm going to lay, since we need 4 of them, we need 2 sets of these. And I've already made 1 set. So we're that much closer to being done. But I'm going to lay my ruler corner to corner. Now, why am I not using the tape on my sewing machine like I taught you last week? Well, because the bed of my sewing machine is not this wide. So I need to mark it. Okay. All right. Let's go over to the sewing machine. There's threads everywhere. I walked out the other day out into the shop, and somebody said, "You're covered with threads." I said, "That's my quilting jewelry." I felt so proud. So let's see. Okay. I got to take my shoes off. That's the number one thing.
Can't sew with your shoes on.
Look at my new socks. Well, they're not new, but I wore them for spring. They're my springy spring sewing socks. Aren't they cute?
Ooh, those are nice. And they have pin cushions.
Oh, pin cushions and thimbles and scissors and spools of thread. They're pretty cute, don't you think?
Love them.
I do too. Okay, I'm going to put my shoes over here, out of the way.
I feel like you're Mrs. Rogers.
Oh,
It's a beautiful
Mrs.
day
Rogers,
in the neighborhood.
it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day for a neighbor. Okay, so because, see how long that is? So I really can't line it up. So here I'm going to lay my line right on my 1/4 inch. Got to get it under those feed dogs so it'll feed through. Now look though, it started, and because it is so long, look, I've got like a double insurance thing here because I can keep it right along there. Now when you see me do this, what I'm actually doing is I'm actually laying the fabrics back together. Because when the machine goes up and down, it bounces the fabric. And sometimes on a bigger piece of fabric, it'll shake it out of place. So I want to make sure that it's in place. Oh, I got to put that down in order for my scissors to work. I can't get used to that for some reason. Okay. I'm going to sew on my leader and ender. Now I'm going to sew on the other side of my line. And again, just keep that fabric in place. I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling. I'm letting the machine do all the work. Now I would have done both sets, but I already have one set done, see? Now I'm going to make these bars. So all this box consists of is 4 half square triangles, 4 sets of bars, and a block in the middle. The bars should be the same size. Sew them together. Uh-oh. Shouldn't have cut it. Now I'm going to have to go get it. I needed the exercise, so I probably lost 2 pounds just by doing that, don't you think? Well, maybe not. Okay. Wishful thinking. Now what
Dawn's
I'm
feeling
do,
her oats this morning.
Yes, I am. Okay, I'm going to cut my line. Oh, one thing I brought to add to my sewing room.
A mouse pad?
No, this is a little bitty teeny weeny cutting mat. And the reason I like to have one of these in my sewing room is because if I'm over here doing something little and I don't want to get up back and forth, I can just have this here. And if I just need to make little trimming cuts, I can just have this right here at my sewing machine. So I do like to have that. And then I was cleaning out some cupboards this week. Look what I found, my sleeve ham. This is my hem that goes, my tailor hem that goes up a sleeve so you can press these seams open. So let's see how it works on fabric, shall we? This is going to be fun. Look at how colorful and 70s it is. Very much, maybe even 50s. Probably this was from the 50s. It's filled with sawdust. Ooh. Okay, but now it doesn't do such a good job as the clapper does, is keeping it down flat. The clapper really makes it flat. So that's why I love the clapper. I love the wool on the clapper. I love the wood on the bottom, makes it really super flat. Isn't that nice? Love that. But I thought you'd get a thrill out of seeing that old 50s ham. I think that's pretty fun. Now I'm going to cut my line. Remember, I made 2 sets of these. I'm going to get out my favorite ruler, my handy dandy triangle square up ruler that I love so much. And remember, I'm going to square these up. Not the finished size, but a 1/2 inch bigger than the finished size. And it's just a little sliver. If you're taking off more than just a sliver, your measurement's wrong. Go back and check, okay? Then I'm going to take off my ears. Now remember last week, I took my ears off first before I squared up my block. And that was just a waste of time, because then I had to go back and square them up again. Cut them off again. So, learn from my mistakes, please. That's the only reason God put me on earth, was to make all the mistakes so you don't have to. And I've made my fair share. He'll be so proud of me. I might get an extra ruby or something in my crown. If I get a crown. Doesn't really matter if I get one or not. But anyway, because I've made so many mistakes. And I've always been a worrier. And I've always said, God put me here on earth to worry, and I didn't want to disappoint him. So I've done my fair share of worrying. But you know, as I've gotten older, and I am old, as I've gotten older, I've learned that you just can't sweat the small stuff. Or maybe I just read that at the bookstore. I don't know, one of those things. Okay? But, yeah, don't sweat the small stuff. This fabric business, you know, you can always buy more, or you can always change the design. It's nothing to get upset over. It's nothing to get, you know, bent out of shape. There you go. Clapper, clapper, love a clapper. Alrighty, let's go around here again to the sewing machine. Now you can see I've already sewn these 3 together. And I've already sewn these 3 together. And you think to yourself, well, why didn't we just cut a big long piece of white and just put these 2 little blue ones on the side and not have a seam here? Well, that's all well and good, but then you don't have anything to actually center that on there and make sure that that's nice and centered. So this seam lines up with this seam, lines up with this seam, and it just makes for a more pleasing block. So I'm going to lay this one here. Now, if I laid it here, you can see that that would be a design change right there. You know what I'm saying? That'd be a design change. And then if I put these here, that'd really be a design change, wouldn't it? Okay? So that's why the board comes in so handy. I love my boards. And then you just do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this up and sew it. And I'm not going to, well, maybe I will pin. I was going to say I'm not going to pin. These are such big pieces and I can keep my finger there. But if you feel like you need to pin this seam right here down because it is going to go against your foot and against your feed dogs, then by all means go ahead and do that because it doesn't take that much time. Then once it gets up there, you can just take that pin out. Continue to sew. Ooh, see, that time I hung on to it so it didn't fall on the floor. All right, so now I'm going to lay it back down where it goes, and I'm going to pick up the other piece and sew it on. And again, if you want a pin, you can. If you feel like you don't need to, don't, but I'm going to. I don't know, I just feel better when I know it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, my dad's been funny this week. He came out of the bedroom yesterday. You know, he has Alzheimer's. He's just the sweetest man. And some people, when they have Alzheimer's, they get really mean, you know, and they don't act anything like they were when they were, you know, in their right minds. But yesterday he comes out of the bedroom. He has on 3 watches, 4 belts, and 5 shirts. He was ready to go, ready to rock and roll. So we just giggled. All of us giggled together. It was pretty fun. That's what you do. You giggle at the things you can giggle at. Because if you don't, you'd be crying the whole time. So, anyway, now I'm going to press these open. I'm going to use my clapper again. Now, I saved a little time. I don't know if you could hear me while he was walking over there, but I saved a little time by not getting up and pressing one seam before I did the other one. Now, if these pieces were little and the seams were touching each other, I would have had to have done it. I would have had to have done a seam, got up, pressed it, and then come back and done the other seam. But because the pieces are so big and the seams are far apart, then I could do them both at the same time. Okay. This is going to be a short video this week, Peter. All right, look at that. Beautiful, don't you think? I love this colorway. Love it, love it, love it.
What colorway is it?
This is the Cookie Tin. Cookie Tin. Now, I will tell you, if you feel like you've missed out on this whole thing, you have not. We have lots of kits. We just made up 5 kits of every one of the colorways. Peter's going to show you the colorways here. We've got the tropical something going on there. Tropical Paradise or something. I don't know. Is that the old trail? That's
Trading Post?
Trading Post. See, it's been so long. Now there's the Cookie Tin, the one I'm working on. I love that Cookie Tin. Now what's this one called? Pink Lemonade.
Ooh.
Is that what it's called?
I think so.
I think it is called Pink Lemonade. And then this one is the Primrose Garden. That's the one we have the sample of and the one that's in the book. And then this is Coastal Cool. So if you think you want to join us, all you have to do is start back at episode 1 and you can get caught up really easy. These videos are going to be on here for a long time, so you can just do it at your own pace. But if you want a kit, we still got them. We wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to do this quilt that wanted to. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to match up these seams. I didn't want to sew this together because I wanted you to see this. See my seams? I'm going to make sure that those seams match up. Once I get them in place and pinch together, I'm going to get my pin and pin that. And then I'm going to go over here to this other one. And I'm going to pinch that and then give it a little pin. Now, Peter likes it when we have to put a pin in like this, through the middle like that, but we only do that when we have a point to contend with on both sides. So now I was already down here on the right end, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. And I'm going to do this right here in the middle. And you know what? I'm going to do this one in the middle too, because I don't want that piece that's underneath slipping down behind. And then I'm going to do this piece. And I always make sure that that back piece, the back block, is up even with the front block. Okay, here we go. If you feel like you have to grab your stiletto, keep it nearby so that if one of these seams goes awry, catch her in the rye. That has nothing to do with anything. It just came in my head, and I just kind of had to say what's in my head half the time. Half the time I should think before I speak. Just saying. So there's really not much to this block, but you're going to make 5 of them. And you're going to make 1 of them big, 1 of them medium, and 3 of them you're going to make small. And again, in the book, it tells you what size they finish. So they're supposed to be a 1/2 inch bigger than the size they tell you in the book. Please don't get messed up with that, okay? And then the next pattern you get, it'll give you the size you're supposed to square it up to and not the finished size. You never know. That's why it's important to read the instructions. I'm going to press this big long seam open. You want me to stand sideways, Peter, so they can see me? Okay. Now, if your block gets to be bigger than your clapper, just do part of the block, then slide down and do the rest. This one just is almost exactly the size of my clapper. All right, now I'm going to go back and do the same thing again on the top. So really, this is a variation of the 9 patch because I did 1, 2, 3 in a row, 1, 2, 3 in a row, 1, 2, 3 in a row, sewed them together, sewed them together, sewed them together, and now sewing the rows together. So really, this is just a variation on the 9 patch, and this is a nice block to do if you need a scrappy block, a fun scrappy block. Now we're just going to do it exactly the same way as we did before. We're going to match up those seams. Very first thing, making sure those seams are straight across, sitting right on top of each other. Then we're going to match up the ends here. Now there's no seam here to match up. Okay, because see, there's no seam on the back. But here's a seam in the middle, and the reason I'm going to pin that is because I'm going to pin the one that goes against my feed dogs, so my feed dogs won't flip it under. Then I'll have a lump in my block. Nobody likes a lumpy block. Now there was a character named Lumpy. What would he play in Lumpy? It was something like Leave It to Beaver or Dennis the Menace or Little Rascals or something like that, but his name was Lumpy. How would you like for your nickname to be Lumpy? That doesn't sound very... Today that would not be politically correct, I'm just saying. You cannot call somebody lumpy and get away with it today. I'm going to cut my ender off. I'm going to move this over here because it's getting in my way rolling around. Can you believe after this week we're going to be all the way up to block 10?
Unbelievable.
I mean, my goodness, we've flown through this class. And none of the blocks have really been that hard, but they've been a lot of good learning things, don't you think, Peter?
Yeah. Very good learning things.
So
I've learned quite a few things that I'll be able to take with me for the rest of my life on my quilts.
sure. Yeah, you'll apply these methods to every quilt you make.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Get that. Get up. Press this last seam. Boy, it's nice to have a chair on rollers. You know, you can just get up and just, push it right out of your way. Especially in a small space. When you have a small space, and this is just the best setup, don't you think, for a small space?
Really good setup.
I bet we're not even taking up, what do you think, 10 foot? A 10-foot square, maybe? Not even that
8
much.
foot
8-foot square, you
at
think?
least.
See, it's just not that much. Okay, Mr. Clapper, do your job. Do your thing. All right, there it is. Come look. I'm going to take last one of the other blocks down. This is my colorway, the cookie tin. The cookie tin. Here's the primrose. Now those are the daddies. I'll show you the mommy. Here she is. You can see how much smaller she is. And then here's the baby. They're done the same way, see? Half square triangles, bars. Half square triangles, bars, square, bars, half square triangle, bars, half square triangle. Same thing here. Okay? And in all of them, this reminds me, if that was red, the Red Cross. You know, their symbol. Did you ever wear the little pins when you were in elementary school? The Red Cross would come and give you these little pins.
Yes.
that's the symbol it reminds me of, is the Red Cross. So anyway, I love that block. Simple, easy. Again, you're going to make 5, one of these, and 3 of these. It'll go much even faster than this did. Okay? So for next week, let's do some red crosses, green crosses, pink crosses, whatever color crosses your crosses are. Let's get those done, and we'll be all the way up ready to start block 10. Okay? See you then. Bye-bye.